Hello and welcome to My Dad Didn't Write a Hit, a brand new podcast tracking the development of the career of singer-songwriter Jennifer Owens. Jennifer, how are you?
I am very well, thank you.
Good. This podcast is going to be hosted by Jennifer and myself, Guy Gingell, her manager and partner.
We kept that a secret for so long, didn't we?
Yeah, I felt it wasn't a good thing to not obviously I'm very
digging a hole.
Very proud to dig myself a hole. No, to call you my girlfriend, but we just didn't want to we didn't want any kind of grey areas or worries, But
then we watched that film about Celine Dion. We were like,
B-movie.
Yeah. And we've just decided that, it's what it is.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of over now feeling like we need to impress, anyone at labels, anything like that. And we're going to get into that, but we've kind of set that aside now. And we are doing things totally ourselves, aren't we?
We are, yeah. You're doing a lot of it.
Yeah. So, as I said, this podcast is going to be tracking the development of Jen's career. And the title of the podcast, My Dad Didn't Write a Hit, you might be wondering what that is all about. We looked at several potential names for the podcast, but we arrived at this one. And the reason we did, what we want to look at as we, over the course of this podcast is how you can, or if you can, and obviously people have before, but maybe the question is, how difficult is it to come from humble beginnings, not be connected through family or friends, and make it in the music industry. So, anyway, we're going to get into that more. So that is why we called the podcast My Dad Didn't Write a Hit. Jen's dad, although he was a singer, he didn't write a hit. And
I don't think he ever wrote a song in his life, actually.
No. So ultimately, you didn't grow up with any connections to the music industry.
No, not really at all, no. Well, yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, your mum and dad were singers,
my mum sung...
Both talented singers.
Yeah, my mum sung... my nan sung as well. My nan and her mum. So it's always kind of been in the line and in the family, but never to... to a great kind of
so not
extent,
kind of in the record industry. Yeah. So we're going to be looking at where Jennifer's come from, where we're at now, and looking to the future and what we hope to do. I'm hoping this podcast is going to be interesting for your fans to listen to get to know you more, because there's a lot to you that people perhaps haven't experienced yet. You are a large character. No, that's the wrong word to use. A larger than life character. Oh. And hopefully it will serve as an inspiration to people starting out in music, and they want to hear, how people like yourself. Obviously, we're not claiming that you've had huge success, but we've got to a point, and it hasn't been easy. It's still years of work to get where we are now,
and like many more.
Yeah, it's just the beginning. So I really hope it will be interesting to people that are interested in you as an artist and people that are starting out as an artist. Okay, so what we should do is let's go right back to the start. So where are you from?
So I was born and raised in Basildon in Essex. And that is where pretty much all of us kind of come from. We're not, we haven't...
Your family, and your extended family.
My extended family, that's where we were. My mum's lived there all her life, and my nan lived in London and then moved to Essex when she was very young, and that's where she was. So, yeah, we go right back into Basildon, and that's where I grew up and spent all of my years up until I was 19. So that's where it began.
And for anyone that doesn't know, what's Basildon like?
I really like Basildon, and it gets a lot of stick. Basildon gets a lot of stick, but it's got a lot of charm. It's not like Towie like you see on the radio. It's not on the television. It's not like that. There's just lots of different people there, and there are lots of different cultures there, and lots of different like little pockets of people and like pockets of life that kind of is in there. And
predominantly it's a working class city, isn't it?
Yeah.
So these are working people. I hadn't spent any amount of time in Basildon before I met you, but I agree that it has charm, and lots of talented people have come from there.
Yeah.
Depeche Mode, Alison Moyet, all sorts, actors, and it is an interesting place, and I think it
makes you tough. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It makes you a tough character.
Yeah. So from Basildon, what did Mum and Dad do?
So Mum sung and Dad sung. That's how they met, actually. And my dad did the pub circuit, so he did all the pubs and the clubs and the conservative clubs and the Rotary clubs and all of them. And then Mum trained at a performing arts conservatoire, and
did you say she got a full scholarship to go there?
Yeah, so it was I think it was from the council maybe, or some, what's the word? Probably the council. Yeah.
So it was funded.
Yeah, it was a funded scholarship.
Yeah.
And I think she got it 4 years in a row, because she danced and sung as well. She predominantly danced, and then I guess she kind of picked singing up along the way, and then that's what she went on to do. She moved out to Spain for a while and sung and danced and performed over in Spain, and then I think she was over in the Isle of Wight, and then she singing, and then she met a band and travelled around with the band and was kind of lived that lovely lifestyle. But she always, Mum, and she says the same now, Mum always kind of missed that, having that home ground and not having anything to go back to. And I think she met my dad, and then she was kind of handed this decision of do I do life,
carry on travelling, singing, or kind of.
But luckily they carried on doing it. When they had us, before they had us as well, and after they had us, they carried on doing it. And then it was on a much smaller scale then, but they carried on doing it, and they gigged together.
So they had day jobs and singing.
Dad
work.
did, yeah. Mum, because Mum had us.
Yeah.
Mum had us, and our kids are a full-time commitment.
Well, you lot certainly were.
And Dad had a. I think it was print finishing. So he cut and folded magazines and booklets and things like that, and then he went and gigged in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you came along.
And then I came along. Well, I wasn't
After
the
Emily.
first. Yeah. So there are three of us. There's my older sister Emily, who is 27, and then there's me. I've just turned 25, and then my brother came 8 years later.
8 years after you, I think it was, wasn't it, Matthew?
And he is 17 now. So the age difference between me and Matthew actually is really, really lovely, and it's put a nice dynamic between the three of us.
I've always felt that when you have an age gap like that, you don't want to. You the older one wants to look after the young one when they're that much younger, whereas me and my brother had 2.5 years and we get on great now, but
to kill each other.
Up until about the age of 30. We were slamming each other's heads indoors and things like that.
See, me and Emily didn't argue. Well, we argued and we stole each other's clothes and makeup and things like that.
Did you share a bedroom? Is that right?
Yeah, we did, but only not because of room and space, but only because we were really frightened. We were both really frightened children, and kind of still are actually. And both of us were too frightened to sleep in our own room. So
you had a wild imagination.
We did, yeah. But it was a really nice. It was a nice environment, and it was a nice environment to have the three of us at that kind of, age
if you think there was 11 years between Emily,
exactly,
and Matthew, so
yeah.
And okay, so moving on to early life for you, you started singing very early. Well, I suppose having your great grandmother, grandmother, your mum and dad being singers.
Yeah,
but it was just you, really, wasn't it?
It was me. Emily, she sung for a little bit and then didn't really kind of carry it on. Matthew plays the drums and is very kind of like musically minded, but I am the only one that's kind of. I
suppose you're really pursuing it, aren't you?
Yeah. And Matthew might, he's still young yet, so he might. But it's such a. I always feel like it's such a naff answer. But people say to me, "How long have you been singing?" And I feel like it's so rubbish because I have literally been singing my whole life.
I know. I find that question a bit bizarre as well, because as soon as you can open your mouth and make a noise, you can sing.
That's what I did.
It can be awful, but you can still try.
Yeah. And Mum always tells the story about me as like a 3 or 4 year old, and she took me to the dance school and said to the dance principal said, "Oh, she can sing," and the principal said, "Oh, we're looking for a singer. Will she sing now?" And I stood there and perfectly, in a nice, perfect way, and sung all of the verses of Amazing Grace.
How many verses?
It's like 6 of them, I think. And
you were 3?
And I was 3, and she was gobsmacked, and she was like, "Yeah, join the school."
Yeah.
And then I sung in
when
the
you
shows
think about that,
year.
that's to be able to do that at that age. That's something, isn't it?
But it was always there. It was constantly. Mum always sung, and Dad always sung, and Nan always sung. My Nan played the piano, so I was always over there, and she was always playing, and I was singing, and it just was the whole of our life.
I think something that really struck me when we put the video together for your last single, Deepens with Time, we spent hours going through old family home movies, hours and hours and hours. And something that really struck me, and I don't think I've mentioned this to you yet, is how, as much as you love to perform, and from, the start of school, you were happy to get up and do the nativity and, sing in front of the whole school, and it was very natural. So you're a very natural performer. But at that young age, I would think that wanting to do that, you'd be quite an attention-seeking child. Look at me. But you weren't at all. You're actually quietly kind of confident in yourself, and you were. When I say quietly, I mean you didn't need to outwardly go, "Oh, look at me." So you and you were just happy in your own company, and I just find that a really interesting combination at that age, at like being 5 years old, wanting to perform, loving doing that, but then just kind of day to day, about the house, you were just kind of it almost doesn't connect. You were just kind of quietly confident in yourself, and you were just quite happy in your own company, and you were great at sharing. You were really lovely to Emily, and everyone you were around, and you wanted nice things for other people when you're 5 years old. I think it's quite easy just to me, and I found that fascinating, and I think you've carried that over into your adult life where you love performing, you're a natural, but then as a person, again, you're kind of quietly confident in your abilities. You love doing lovely things for people, but you're not, in no ways are you an attention seeker, in life. And I just think that's a really lovely combination, and maybe some of your personality, that some of that goes into your music. I don't know. But and by that I mean the way the way in which, for me, it's the way you emote, the way you communicate, what you sing is quite unique to you. I don't think many people have the ability to connect with people the way you do. So maybe some of that, you as a person, in some bizarre way, maybe some of that goes into your music.
Yeah.
So, growing up, getting a bit older, obviously you as we mentioned, you did the nativities and things like that. And am I right in thinking, was it when you were about 10? Did your mum and dad start taking you out singing?
Yeah. I'd probably say it was about. I did all of the the dance school shows and all of that stuff. So I was already out singing on stages and stuff.
Was that the school you auditioned for when you were 3?
Yeah, so that was Showbiz.
Yeah.
And they're in Rayleigh now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was there. I was at Showbiz for a long time, and Alison, she had me in the shows every year, and I sung in the shows every year, and because I was never really a dancer, so she had me sing instead. And then it was probably around 10 that Dad started taking me out to begin with.
And where would that be? Where would you be singing?
So we did the Rotary clubs or the Conservative clubs and the Bowls clubs and places like that. Yeah. And then it was clubs and pubs, and he would go in and get himself a pint, and then I'd have a J2O.
And you make it last.
Yeah, you make it last. So yeah, and I guess that kind of worked in my favour, because there's no kind of rowdy crowd that I haven't sung
in Basildon,
to. Yeah,
the Winged Horse in Basildon
yeah.
on it. Yeah, yeah. No, it's a good way to.
I've sung for rooms of people that don't want to listen, you know, and I think that builds you.
I think you've always been a natural performer from a really young age, but I think the fact that you have done that, you've done the pubs, the clubs, and from a really young age, I think that's really important. And I think you kind of you learnt your craft there, in terms of performing, and
also sitting and watching as well, because I wouldn't be doing an hour's worth of singing, but Mum and Dad would sing for the rest of it, so there was nothing else to do but sit and watch Mum and Dad.
Yeah, and
I watched and watched and watched and picked up on all of those things, and I guess you just absorb in it for all of that time, and then eventually put it into what you do.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's so important. I think there are a lot of really talented people who, could have been great performers or might go on to be, but they perhaps haven't done all of the shows, all of the pubs, all of the Conservative clubs, the casinos for a payment of a sandwich that you've done.
That's a story for another time.
I know, but yeah, true story.
Not my finest moment.
No, I put a stop to that. But yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. And was it your nan who was most proactive in training, your vocal training?
Nan and mum probably. Mum did a lot of the kind of technique and, you know, like open your mouth and flatten your tongue and all that sort of stuff.
Whereas the spoon on the tongue?
Yeah, she used to stick a spoon. She used to stick a spoon on my tongue. And
can you imagine singing teachers doing that now? They get sacked.
But she was my mum, so she was allowed. But my nan did like the hours of practice. I would go over. Mum would send me over because my nan, she lived across the road. Nan and Grandad, they lived literally across the road. And I would wander across the road and spend hours and hours and hours stood by her piano just singing through the
Did
Disney.
it ever feel tedious
yeah,
being that age?
Yeah, it did, yeah. And there were times when, because she used to make me sing It's a Small World from the ride, the Disneyland ride.
Sing it?
No. She used to make me do it over and over and over and over and over again because it sat in my like falsetto, like the airy part of my voice. And for me, that's always been the bit that I struggle with the most, like the airy bit.
No, you struggle with it up here. It's not a real problem.
It's just in my brain.
Real in your head.
And she would just make me sing it over and over and over again, just to kind of strengthen it and to, like you say, like I guess maybe to just make me feel more confident in it. And yeah, there were times when I thought, I just want to be at home, you know,
watching
TV,
eating
watching
a cheese sandwich.
Tracy Beaker on television. But you know, she's not here anymore, and I guess there are times that I wish that I could just have another hour with her, you know, doing that. And
you probably feel really grateful for all the time she did spend.
Yeah.
Because I think you were someone who was born with a natural talent, but then you were fortunate to be surrounded by family who could help you nurture your technique. So you're out singing at pubs, conservative clubs, that kind of thing at 10. And then at 11 you went to a performing arts secondary school.
Yeah, so it was, it's called Gable Hall, and it's in Corringham, Stamford-le-Hope in Essex. And it specialises in performing arts. So, and I can't remember the percentages, but a certain percentage of the school is like specialises in performing arts, and then another percentage of the school are just kind of like mainstream children, and you know, like don't
so
specialise.
The focus isn't on the arts.
Yeah. And I really do count myself really lucky to have gone to a school. It was an audition process to get in. You auditioned to get in, and they accepted you because we didn't live in catchment. Although it's Essex, it's not. You know, it wasn't. It was like
did they invite
10
you
minutes
for an audition, or did you apply?
I think we applied.
And was it? Did your mum know of the school, or did you? Or was it just
I don't know. I can't remember how it came about. I don't know how it came about, but. Maybe I think somebody may have like told mum about it. Somebody might have mentioned it or something. I went for the audition and I sung "Hopelessly Devoted to You" from Grease. And I think I actually wore the costume, the pink skirt, and the what's the jackets that they wear?
The leather jacket.
No, the girls.
Oh, I don't know.
What are they
I've never
called?
seen Grease all the way through.
Oh, well, I wore one of the jackets. Yeah. And I sung "Hopelessly Devoted to You," and they accepted me, and that was where I went for secondary school. And I was going to say, I do consider myself really lucky to have gone to a school where I was really kind of lifted up for being good at that, and not so. And it wasn't a worry, because I'm not an academic person. I'm really not. Like maths and English is not my thing whatsoever. And that was never a worry, because that I was always everyone was always like, well, you can sing and that's great, and that's what we're going to focus on. And
I think the thing to remember is as well, you know, kind of academic intelligence is just one. You know, it's you know, academic study, whatever exam.
And that was very
limited way to measure intelligence.
And that was very much the kind of ethos of the school, was that we were all there for. Whatever reason we were there for, and it didn't matter that you didn't do too well in maths, or you didn't. And for the other kids as well, the other kids that weren't
focusing on the arts,
they had you know great like GCSE results and things like that, because it didn't matter that they couldn't perform, because actually academically they were brilliant and they were propping the rest of the school up with their academic skills, you know.
So they were kind of like propping up the statistics.
Yeah, they were propping up the statistics for the academics, and we were propping up the, you know, the specialised art stuff. And I come across 2 teachers at that school who were amazing for me as a person and have stayed quite relevant in my life now, because they just kind of took me under their wing and you know.
Because I think during your teenage years, you know, you had some ups and downs, and I think it, you know, from what you've told me, it was so nice that you had people there that really cared about you and looked out for you. And I think it was a great place for you to go.
Yeah, I do.
I think it was perfect
definitely,
for you.
Yeah.
And you did do all the shows and everything like that, you know. It's so nice now that, you know, you know.
I did The Wizard of Oz, and I did Hairspray, and I did Rent, all the Christmas shows, all the road shows, all of it. Yeah, I was always involved. It's
liberating now to just say that, isn't it? You know.
I don't think I've ever really been too worried about that, but I know what you're saying.
I guess where I'm 10 years older than you, I come from that background of being in a band. You know, I was in a band. We had some stuff written about us, and it was just like this. You had to be, you know, it's like you had to have been born in a Fred Perry
Were
t-shirt.
you in a nativity?
Yeah.
What did
Joseph.
you do? No, you weren't.
I was Joseph.
No, you
I didn't
weren't.
have any lines, but I was Joseph.
Why didn't you have any lines?
I might have, but I remember getting to.
I was thinking you were going to be
Bethlehem.
like sheep material.
No, I got some pretty good roles throughout my.
Pretty good roles.
But yeah, I was Joseph. So performing arts school.
Yeah. It was good fun. I really enjoyed it, and I got on all right at school. My dad had a stroke when I was in year 10, and it kind of changed a lot. Well, it did change a lot. It changed a lot of home life and the way I am as a person, and the way me and my sister got on. It did kind of turn our worlds kind of upside down, really. And I think I am so grateful to have been in an environment at school where I was just really looked after. I was really looked after, and I was really praised for taking my emotions out in music and singing about it, and you know, and that wasn't a strange thing, you know.
I think any artist that has written songs, sings songs that people connect with, they're coming from a place of their life experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, they can put, you know, it's that kind of age-old thing of you take all the negative stuff that's happened in your life and you write about it and you give this art to other people that can relate to it. But I think, you know, maybe there are people that have had a great, easy life and they can write stories about hardship, you know. But I think, I don't know how closely people listen to your lyrics, but these are real, you know, you scratch beneath the surface, I think, with your lyrics, and there's a lot to them. Yeah. There's a lot to them. Maybe
but it wasn't
some songs
like,
more than others. But.
Life wasn't, I'm not going to say it was, you know, really rubbish and we really struggled, but it certainly wasn't easy. And there were times when, you know, we fell out as a family, and there were times when you're like questioning everything you know about. There was certainly times when I was questioning everything I knew about my dad, and that was kind of later on in life, you know, like teenage years. That was kind of the home kind of dynamic. That it was everything was all a bit kind of,
because the finances were a bit up in the air as well, weren't they? After your dad had his stroke.
Dad did have quite a bit of trouble with spending money on alcohol and things that he shouldn't have been. Yeah. And it took Mum to kind of put her foot down and say, we've got to sort this out now. And I think as a result of that, Mum learned to live on very little so that she could get rid of any debt that had kind of amounted up, or you know, any kind of unnecessary finances almost. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that wasn't a bad thing. Like, it wasn't, it certainly didn't feel like it made life difficult. There were skiing trips I missed out on, and there were things that you can't do that all your friends are doing. But I
you
never felt
grew
deprived.
Up quickly though, didn't you? Because when I met you, I was 30 and you were 20, and you were very mature and kind of wise to the world, and I was quite immature, so we kind of met in the middle. But yeah, no, I think all your experiences you've turned into a positive thing.
Yeah, and I try.
The songs might not sound that positive, but it's a positive thing that you've created that.
I do try really hard to not be like a product of those things. I try really hard to make them reasons why I do that or don't do that.
Yeah, it's kind
do you know
of,
what I mean?
I think those life lessons you've kind of taken them, and it's not to, it was a kind of, there's some unfortunate things that were happening. It's not that you don't want to do, say, what your mum did or whatever. It's not that. It's just that, you grew up quickly. I think that's probably the best way to put it, isn't it? And you kind of then have an idea earlier on as to how you want to go about things. Me and my sister dealt with my dad's stroke very differently. She went out and drunk a lot and partied a lot and stayed out, and there would be like 3 or 4 days where we wouldn't see her, and we'd just be like, are you okay? Where are you? And whereas it just kind of grounded me a little bit, and I was like, right, it's time to pull my socks up and be there for Emily and be there for Mum and be there for Matthew. Yeah.
And I don't know why. Everybody deals with things differently, and I don't know why we kind of fell into those roles. But yeah, I guess that kind of made me kind of grow up.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got up to the point where you're about 15. So we can revisit that, and we can pick up from there maybe in the next show.
To be continued.
To be continued. And obviously we can talk about all sorts of things, from childhood, and we can elaborate on things in further shows. But I think if we just to finish up, if we just maybe talk briefly about where we are now with the project. So we're at a point where we have decided not to pursue a by the way, if you see me and Jen looking here, we're making sure that her iPhone, we don't have a fancy camera, making sure the iPhone's still recording and the audio is still recording, so that's why we keep looking. So we're at the point where we've decided to not pursue a record deal. We've decided not to pursue agents, things like that. We are going to try and build your audience. Go straight to a new, go straight to hopefully building an audience through things like Instagram, and now you're a big TikTok celebrity.
Oh, for God's sake.
I think it's very exciting that we kind of have the world at our fingertips through our phones. We do so much on our phones, don't we, with your project? And that's just amazing. I think it's really exciting to see where things are going to go. I think we're going to learn a lot about what kind of material people want to hear from you. I think people will want to get to know you more, which we can obviously do through silly things like TikTok videos, which are good fun, and you're very natural at. And I think doing something like this, it's going to be a great way for people to get to know you.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really exciting that, you might not ever reach that kind of stratospheric success that some artists have had.
Yeah.
But, I think we can get to a level, or, it might be that,
And do you know what? It's not all about that. For me, music has always been about kind of reaching out to people and being there for people, and just kind of telling my story so that people don't feel so alone in theirs. And if nothing ever comes of it, then, that's not a problem, because if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh my God, it moved me so much, and I didn't feel so alone in that moment," then I've done my job.
I think if we wanted to get rich quick, we wouldn't be doing this.
No.
It's not about the money.
No way.
And I always say to people that, the feeling, I speak to musicians mostly about this because it's something that they kind of understand, is that nothing beats that feeling of creating a song, a recording of that song, no holiday, anything, that when you're listening back, whether you've just kind of finished the master recording or you've just kind of got the bare bones of the song
and
down.
For me singing it as well, like I know it's different for you because you don't go out and sing it, but for me going out and singing it for people and then coming to you and connecting with something that you've made from nothing, nothing beats that. And
that is going to be one of the challenges with this project, doing it the way we are, is filling rooms. That's going to take a little while.
Yeah, I'm sure we could fill a virtual room.
Yeah, well, we've going back a bit. We've done. I think we should talk. Maybe next show we can talk. Maybe on the next show we can talk about the things we've tried and things because we've been working together for 5 years now. I think it would be really interesting to talk about that, because obviously when people first become aware of you, you're brand new to them. But we've been doing this for a little while now.
We've had a lot of laughs.
So we can get into those things more moving forward with future shows. So
if you're watching this, there's a little dog down here who knows that it's her dinner time.
But anyway, I think, should we leave it there for this week?
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be doing this once a week, aren't we?
Well, yeah, if people want it, they might have one listen and think, nah.
That's very true. That's very true. We'll see how it goes. But I think the plan is to do it once a week.
Yeah.
And if there's anything you want to ask, anything you've liked about the show in particular, anything you want us to talk about, just get in touch. Jen's Instagram is Jennifer Owens Music. You're on Facebook as the same handle.
I'm also now on TikTok.
Big TikTok. Go and have a look at
big TikTok celebrity.
It's funny, isn't it? How long's your Instagram account been up for?
Like 5 years.
And you started TikTok very recently, and don't you already have more followers on TikTok?
Yeah.
So maybe you're destined to be a TikTok comedy star and not a singer.
Not a singer. I did a poll on my Instagram the other day saying, should I be a singer or a TikToker? It did actually come back as singer. So.
But it was only just, wasn't it? I think you showed me. It was marginal. Well, that obviously shows how funny you are.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you next week. You will hear us next week. Yeah. We won't see you.
You will hear these sweet sounds.
Thank you. Goodbye.